Hey, welcome back to this bootcamp series. At this point, we've worked through the 5 chapters, right? Design, programming, servers, databases, and user authentication. However, you might be feeling like you're not ready to go get a job, or you don't feel super confident. You might feel like you have a million questions of where to go next from here. So that's why, even though this is the final video in the series, I didn't want things to just end super abruptly. So in this video, I want to give you some sort of big picture perspectives to keep in mind that will hopefully help you out. So to get started, piece of advice number 1 is to follow the fun or curiosity. What I'm getting at here is if you're not having fun learning about development and programming, it's not even a question of if you'll get burnt out, but rather when you'll get burnt out. Because this is one of the fastest changing industries. There's always something new to learn and practice. And if you're not having any fun, you're just going to feel overwhelmed. Also, this would never happen, but even just hypothetically, if the development and programming world sort of froze and you had 3 years to sort of learn everything before it changed, you'd still get burnt out because there's just so many different disciplines and topics and things to become an expert at. Luckily, though, you don't need to be an expert at all 5 topics we've covered in this bootcamp series. And that's sort of what I'm getting at here with this first point of following the fun and curiosity. If one of those chapters in particular seemed like a lot of fun to you, I want you to focus really just on that one area. Now, let's be real. I'm not saying that every minute's going to be fun, but if you're not having little bursts of fun here and there, I think it means you're trying to specialize in the wrong topic. And this segues into piece of advice number 2, which is the myth of the full stack developer. Now let me explain what I mean by that phrase. I'm not saying that a full stack developer is a unicorn that doesn't really exist. What I am saying, though, is that the web development culture sort of has an obsession with full stack developers. And if you've noticed any sort of boot camp, any sort of coding school you can go to, they're all obsessed with calling it full stack. And it's almost to the point where everyone thinks that those are the only jobs out there, that the only job opportunities are for full stack developers. When in reality, that's not the case whatsoever. I think what I'm trying to say here is, yes, there are full stack developers, but people don't just become a full stack developer after a 3-month course. Like personally, in my life, I would say the 3 most talented developers that I've had a chance to work with, yes, they're full stack, but all 3 of them started out as a front-end developer. And then just over the years, they picked up the back end as well. So what I'm getting at here is that learning all of these different things takes a lot of time. And it's not like you need to learn everything and then you can enter the field professionally. Instead, I think in the real world, anyone who is truly a full stack developer at a professional level, they probably specialized in one area, got their foot in the door, and then gradually over years, they sort of learned all the other areas to a professional level. So I don't want you to feel overwhelmed like you need to be a pro at everything. That's not the real world. That's not the way this works. I'm not sure why there's this unhealthy obsession on full stack dev being a minimum absolute requirement. That's just not how it is in the real world. So really, to tie this back into point number 1, right? I'm just trying to say, don't be afraid to specialize. And that brings us to the third piece of advice I have, which is get out of the shallow end of the pool. You need to go into the deep end. What do I mean by that? I guess what I'm trying to say is stop trying to collect every single framework or library. They're not Pokemon. You don't need to catch them all. Now, I'm not saying don't learn different technologies that do different things. For example, like in this bootcamp series, we learned React. We didn't bother to also learn Angular and Vue.js. Or for example, on the server side, we just learned Node.js. We didn't also learn PHP and Ruby and Python. Now let me clarify my position here. I'm not saying it's bad to know more than one language. I'm not saying it's bad to know more than one library. I guess I'm just trying to counterbalance things because in the community, I've seen an unhealthy obsession on sort of taste testing or sampling 20 different frameworks that all do the same thing. I think people have tricked themselves into thinking that that's somehow valuable, but no employer is going to hire you because you watched a 30-minute introductory tutorial That's not valuable. Anyone can do that if they spend 30 minutes. Our value as developers comes from us being able to solve complex problems. And you really only run into complex problems when you stick with one language or one framework until you become an expert at it. Now, yes, it's okay to try out different languages or frameworks to see which one you like the best, but try not to become obsessed with that process. I guess I'm just trying to help you avoid the common pitfall of never actually becoming an expert at anything because you're too busy chasing new shiny objects. Because I've seen posts online where people say, I can't get a job. I know 37 different languages and 600 different frameworks, and I still can't get a job. And it's just like, I know for a fact that person isn't actually an expert at anything, so why would they be valuable to a development team? I think a common argument against what I'm saying here would be, but Brad, what if I know language or framework A, B, or C, but then I see a great job opening that wants X, Y, or Z instead? Well, my response to that is that's fine. You can go watch a 30-minute tutorial video and be right where you would have been anyways, right? It's not like you were an expert at all 600 of those frameworks. So I guess what I'm saying is there's no need or there's no value in preemptively learning everything out there. Big picture, to wrap up this piece of advice, I'm just saying instead of jumping between 600 different pools and always staying in the shallow end, maybe try just staying in one pool and actually checking out the deep end. Let's move on to the next topic, number 4, and this is you don't always want to chase what seems like the coolest or flashiest option. Instead, you just want to go with what has the most job opportunities. What am I getting at here? Well, yes, we chose JavaScript and Node in this bootcamp series because I feel like they're the least opinionated and they're the most widely used. So yes, there are tons and tons of job opportunities with JavaScript and Node, but those might be really competitive, right? Since they're the coolest or flashiest technologies, that's sort of what everyone wants to be doing. However, if you learn one of the things on the screen right now, let me list these: Laravel, WordPress, Django, Ruby on Rails. What I'm getting at is even though these things may not seem like the flashiest or the coolest, trust me, the job opportunities that are out there for these are incredible. So if you care less about what's trendy and instead you want to focus on where the job opportunities are, especially where maybe things are less competitive, I would just study one of these things, spend a lot of time and get as good as possible. And the amount of job opportunities that are out there is very, very encouraging. Okay, and for my 5th and final sort of big picture piece of advice, I just want to say that job descriptions are a joke. So job descriptions are an employer's wildest fantasy. So view it that way instead of thinking it's the minimum requirements. You always have to call a job description's bluff. Any job that I've ever had in my life, I did not meet the requirements at all. There's always several different things that I don't have any experience in that they're demanding, but I apply anyways because I feel like I'm a good fit in other ways. And things just have a way of working out even though that's the case. So big picture, job descriptions, don't let them make you feel bad about yourself, because I think even some of the most talented developers in the world will feel horrible after looking at job descriptions for 10 minutes. I don't know why job descriptions are so awful, but they are. So don't let it get you down. Don't let job descriptions make you feel worthless. You got to call their bluff. You need to apply anyways. And that wraps up the 5 sort of non-technical pieces of advice I had. Really quick at the end here though, I do have 2 sort of technical tips. So throughout this bootcamp series, 2 things that we didn't really go over that I think you should study next would be command line Git. Maybe some of you are already using command line Git, but in the video where we first learned how to push files up to GitHub, we used the GUI application where you just point and click. A lot of jobs, a lot of employers will require you to use command line Git instead. So that's just something you might want to look up on YouTube or Google. Check out command line Git. Also, the other topic that we didn't cover that is universally good to know, universally useful, is testing. Now, especially because we focused on JavaScript and Node in this bootcamp series, I'd recommend checking out the Jest package. Okay, but really that's it. That's all I had for this video. And that is going to bring this bootcamp series to a close. I do want to thank each and every one of you that watched the entire thing, or even if you just watched part of it. Thank you to each and every one of you that shared the link to your friends and family. And just know that even though I'm going to take a break from YouTube right now to work on a few other projects, I will be back. You can look at the history of this channel. It's been around for over a decade, so I'll be back. If there's a topic you really want to see me cover when I do come back, you can leave that in the comments down below. Thank you again for checking out this series. It means a lot to me that you would watch this entire thing. I'll see you around, and take care.